Hey guys, welcome to the Warship Weekly Podcast, where we talk about the current state of World of Warships, what's going on in the game, and how we've been playing recently. I am me, Josh.
And I'm Nicodemus, 81.
There we go. And yeah, guys, first week of the podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed this first one. So the main topic for the night is ranked. Ranked is just ending. I think today is the last day. So if you haven't gotten rank one, well, we're talking in the past, but I hope you got it done. Nika, this was like your first time really diving in. You got rank one.
It's true, I did indeed, yeah.
And you, like, how far did you get last season?
Last season I got approximately rank 3, I think was the lowest I got, and then I kind of had to bounce back up in rank 6, and I just kind of ran out of time.
That's always so gnarly
this
when you
season.
drop back.
Yeah, it's tough. It seems to be, with ranked, it's a weird thing, right? It goes in streaks. You seem to have a really good streak of games, followed by potentially 3 or 4, and even in some cases more losses in a row. So
And it's like last season, I think this is now the third season. I obviously there was a lot more people playing this season than last, and I think you got to that point where it's a lot. I mean, there were still good players throughout. You got to, especially the last season, I waited really long. This season, I kind of pushed hard, kind of throughout the entire thing, and this season was a lot. I didn't wait, and I think that actually helped. You kind of didn't push too hard at the start, and then you pushed pretty damn hard, like right in the middle, and you got it relatively easily.
it was definitely a situation where I definitely pushed, I'd say, middle of the season almost exactly. I wanted to make sure I got it with enough time since I ran out in season 2. So.
Yeah. Now, where did you? Now you did. What did you use last season? Because you didn't get it last season, but then we filled you in on the secret ship that everyone used, and it made it really easy. What did you use last season, and then what did you use this season?
Yeah, for sure. Season 2 was largely battleships. I was using the Nagato and Amagi, and I'd say my win rate came in 50% or maybe even a little lower. And then, as you mentioned, the secret ship for ranked, the Benson,
Yeah, buddy.
definitely carried me through this season. So,
And it's crazy that last season, like it was strong, and I think easily the strongest destroyer. And this season, you had like the Bliss, and you still the Fubuki and that kind of thing. And then they made the Benson even stronger, which I just think made it that much easier because not only were you like the anti DDDD, which with how ranked was, you had the battleships, crews just got murdered by battleships. So that's just the current state of the game, and then it's just destroyers versus battleships, which is really what you saw. And now with like having the fifth gun on the Benson, you even posed a decent threat, especially to something that doesn't have a heal, like everything but the Atago. 5 guns firing at you is pretty damn deadly, and when you can't see them in a smoke, or they can peace out and kind of zip in and out of islands, like that's pretty sick. And I just think it's way too good. It's just too good. I love the ship.
oh yeah, it's definitely something where the Benson and DDs in general, the more you play them, the more comfortable you get with the play style, because it's definitely not a YOLO friendly ship that you run, when you're running a destroyer. So yeah, for sure. I mean, the Benson is great. I mean, it's one of the best all around ships, I would argue, in the game. It's got the 9.2 or 9.4 kilometer torps. Combined with those 5 guns, adequate speed. There are a couple cruisers that can chase you down, but overall, the thing has great DPM, great torpedoes. It's a great ship to really carry a match. And to that effect, why don't you? I know you finally ran across your first solo warrior during the season. Why don't you tell us
I
a
did,
little more about
yes.
that?
I wish I was playing that on one of my Tuesday like YouTube slash get things done, but I just ended up playing Warships kind of thing. I was supposed to be productive, but wasn't. And it was. I wish I had recorded. I reached out to like 3 people I knew that were in the game about their game file, see if they had it, and they didn't. And I mean, that just shows. I mean, I couldn't have done the same thing with any other ship. I mean, that is the only ship I could have done that. It was the perfect mix of stealth. I mean, if you're rolling a 15-point captain in the Benson, you have a 5.8 kilometer detection. That's sick. That's disgusting. And my first ever solo warrior Kraken, 5 kill game in ranked, 5 of 7, and one guy was still alive. I mean, like that's on the comeback. I mean, that it was just so sick. And I wish I had that game film. I wish I could like have it and show the entire world. But I mean, with the Fubuki, couldn't have done it. I killed 2 destroyers right away with guns only. There's no way. I mean, the stealth wise, I could have done it that way, but I think the Benson's even faster than the Fubuki, so maybe it could have caused some problems there. That is just the ship, you know. That's how insanely good the Benson is, and I mean, and you even didn't even start the season with the Benson. Like you went into the season being a non-DD player with the Mahan. No, even with the Farragut. I think you had to work all the way through up, didn't you?
Yeah, I was on T3 or 4, I think, on the USDD side. So I had not played much DD at all, especially on the US side.
And then you got rank 1 with the Benson, and then I think you even left the rank season being a conformed DD player.
Absolutely, yeah. My gameplay these days is largely battleship or destroyer. The cruiser life, and I consider myself a cruiser player overall. I love the playstyle of the cruiser. I love the versatility of those ships. Unfortunately, as you get higher up in tiers, they don't stand a chance against battleships right
Yeah, the stealth is there on some of them. You know, sub 10 kilometers. On certain ranges, you can stealth fire on certain ships right at the edge of your detection range, or your firing range. But you know, which is one thing I think it was about the same, the team makeup. I don't think changed too much from last season till this season. It seemed very battleship heavy, very destroyer heavy. Not too many cruisers. I mean, the majority of highest win percentages. There's a couple with cruisers, but it's a lot of destroyers, a lot of battleships, and there's one up there with a carrier, which is insane.
In season 2, I don't know, it felt like battleships in ranked were more prevalent, and
Mm-hmm.
also were able to control the game a little bit better. But now
Yeah.
I think as players are becoming more and more aware of the game state itself and the meta, it's really become apparent that destroyers just run the tables.
And do you think that is partially, you know, one, there being more people. Two, I think the word getting out that how strong some of these destroyers are, and two, there actually being like more destroyers with the Bliss. I know a couple people who got rank 1 with the Bliss, which is pretty impressive. But you know, is that just how it goes? More people learn about this, and then they start playing them because the Benson's amazing. Like, what this guy do? What that guy do to get rank 1? Well, they both use the Benson. Well, shit, that must be the right ship to play.
Yeah, I think so. I think more people, as they get higher up in the ranks with like cruisers, especially, start to get maybe disenfranchised with the fact that you basically can get one shot by battleships almost at will, and or just get more inclined to want to try the different play styles and lines. And destroyer is a game style that is almost a game within the game. And by that I mean like you're using your cover a lot more. You have to play smart, right? It's not just a matter of putting yourself in a position to support a battleship, for instance. There's just a lot more involved with destroyer play in terms of the game within a game and being in the right place at the right time. So
And you know, I one thing that attracted me, you know, I started with played around. I would consider myself a cruiser player. I started with the Otago, had decent. I think I was like 50% with the Otago or something like that over like 8 games, and I started playing battleships for a couple games with the Tirpitz. I didn't have the Amagi at the time, and I talked to Islet, another streamer, and he purely was going battleships for ranked, and talked to a couple other people that view the stream. They're like, "Oh, you need to play something that does more damage, it can control the game, and all this, and blah 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 blah." A battleship can pump out damage and do this and do that, but the thing that I thought the battleships obviously are weak at was taking caps, and with it being a 2 cap system and how fast those games can go. I mean, if a team holds both caps the entire game, they can continuously lose people throughout the game, and they'll still be ahead, if not close. I mean, or way in the lead just for the pure cap points. And I've had games where I think it was 4v7, our team, their team, and we still won because we held the caps the whole time. Because if you're a battleship and you're going into a cap that you know the other team has like 3 DDs, you're not going to go in that cap anymore. There's no way. I mean, it's almost suicide because they can see you, you can't see them. So when people say, "Well, battleship controls the game," when it's so close, because even though it's the two zones, there's not really that big of an area that you're fighting. It's pretty damn close quarter combat, and what's very strong in that kind of combat is torpedoes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, the action zones in ranked versus random games are much more compact, absolutely, and I think it's almost to the battleship's detriment, right? Because if you think about a battleship's strength, it's long range, it's heavy hitting, and it's the ability to just provide that intense cover fire when it's needed the most. And in ranked matches, it's just not the case. It's about controlling those zones, keeping your ticking score up, at least being one on the caps. And if you can manage it, going two caps in your favor is fantastic. It puts you in a situation oftentimes where, like you said, you have ships to give at that point because you've just earned so much ticking score throughout the course of 4 or 5 minutes of owning both caps that a comeback from the other team, as long as you stay alive, is virtually impossible if they're not willing to be more aggressive and push for a cap zone or both.
One thing I noticed this season too was a lot more communication in chat. There were so many games where one you had to play out of your mind to get the win. 3, 4 kills, and to finally get the win. But one thing I noticed a lot more this season, and maybe it's just because I kind of forgot, I didn't really push hard in the first season. Second season got rank 1. And this season, the third season, I noticed a lot more games where, the team seemed very balanced, and there seemed to be a lot of good players. A lot of, that was a good play. This guy's playing very good. There's plenty of times where it's like, there's a Fubuki sitting around the edge, he's sitting in a smoke, you kill him with a torpedo. Or, there's a cruiser, he's sailing broadside, one of your battleships wrecks him. But I noticed a lot more, better plays, I guess, from both sides, and even, your own teammates. There was sometimes I didn't do shit. I was at the bottom of the team, and go, oh, okay, well, I helped cap one thing, and my team just murdered is there anything better than having a good battleship or a good cruiser on your team, though? Where it's just man, they're carrying me, and this is kind of nice.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, ranked definitely allows for more of that, where you feel like the weight of the game isn't necessarily on your shoulders as much. And if you happen to slip up, or you make a bad play, or you find yourself out of position slightly, there's a much greater percentage of chance that your team's going to pick you up in those situations. And there was oftentimes too where it goes both ways, right? Where the other team, like you said, is just as good and has just as good of players. Especially when you get down sub rank 10, sub rank 5, you're pushing that rank 1, right? And you're in a situation where you find yourself, you're maybe have a commanding lead, right? But it's not commanding enough, because suddenly they'll kill 2 ships and grab a cap, and they're right back in it. And you're like, wow, I thought we had this game won for sure. And suddenly you find yourself, the tables get turned, and you're on the flip side going, geez, we could actually lose this. Or vice versa. There's games where I've been down, and suddenly a ship or 2 dies suddenly, or somebody picks it up, and a cruiser happens to get a few salvos on a destroyer and takes out a key destroyer in the match, and you're right back in it. And so it's those ups and downs that make ranked 1 super frustrating and super fruitful and fun to play. So
I think we've all had that Atlanta that charges right into cap and then dies. But I think for every time we've had that Atlanta, we've had X ship just play out of their mind, And I don't know, this season I got done with a lot fewer games. You got rank 1, which is awesome. And I really enjoyed this season. I had a lot of fun playing it. I'm excited about next season. It seems like there's a lot more people playing it, and I think it's good. I wish, they need to work on whatever their, the rewards are. The same shit every time is going to get people kind of burnt out on it. But I had a lot of fun this season.
I would agree. I had a blast. It was definitely much less stressful than last season. I don't know if that's just a matter of playing the right ship types, quote unquote, and or
maybe even finding the ship that finding the ship that's your ship, your class now. Maybe you were a destroyer player the whole time and you just didn't know it.
Absolutely possible, yeah. I know I'm enjoying destroyer play now, just across the board. I've actually stretched out now. I'm pushing most of the destroyer lines across the board with the Russians and the IJN as well.
It's good though. It's good. Well, let's talk into ship strengths. Like we said, battleship heavy. Definitely plenty of cruisers though, and pretty destroyer heavy at times too. Sometimes being 3 or 4 on each side. What, in your opinion, we can kind of go through all the classes. I would say probably just aircraft carrier. I think Shokaku is probably the strongest of the two with the new barrage ability. I didn't see too many of them, in the 70-some games I played. There's probably 5 with aircraft carriers, if that. And I think the Shokaku kind of controlled it. Can control Lexington a little bit and just take out things fast enough before a Lexington can really one torp salvo or one dive bomber salvo the team down.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with you. The amount of CVs or carriers I saw in ranked play was, I could probably count it on one hand.
But
It
you
was
saw more at the
really
end of the season,
mind-blowing.
right?
Yeah, they did. I don't know if that was a result of Project R, which was a contest that or promotion that when you
Could you
signed
do the
on.
Project R stuff in ranked? I thought it was only random.
That's a good point. I don't know if maybe some of these folks didn't realize that. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
The
I just know
fine
that
print.
during that time, the play seemed the CV carrier play seemed to increase quite a bit. Not just in ranked, but random games as well. Like you saw a lot of carriers out there. I don't play carriers at all. Really, it's not something I'm interested in, that RTS top down style of play.
Yep.
But even I found myself going out and playing carriers just to get those pearls. So.
And one thing that was really nice too is the pure number of planes in the sky. Being able to scout, I think, gives the Shokaku a bit of an advantage. 8 sets of planes over 4, or 6 sets. Sorry, 6 sets of planes over 4. I mean, this lets you cover more map, especially if the carrier dies, then you'll know where those destroyers are the entire game. But all right, those are carriers. They're fun and all, very few and far between. But battleships, what did you see as the strongest battleship?
For me, I think if you wanted straight utility, the Tirpitz actually, as a premium ship, can do quite well. It can do well in close quarters with the torpedoes and kind of having really good shell flight time as well. But most of the time, you'd see Amagis
Yeah.
and Norcals. So, for the most part,
I found Amagi's was probably the strongest. Pretty damn strong secondaries too, which don't hurt. I just think the pure amount of guns, even though the Amagi has like worse armor, it's a battle cruiser, whatever people want to say like that. I found that the Amagi could just pump out more damage. I found a lot of the Norcals. I think the Norcal was actually the weakest. Not bad, but I felt the weakest, and even in the current state of the Norcal, with it being the shell travel's pretty shitty, high arc, that kind of thing. Dispersion's mediocre. I felt like it went Amagi, Tirpitz, Norcal in that order.
I would agree. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And the Amagi plays much like the Tier 6 Fuso in that it's like a shotgun style,
Yep.
like you said, a lot more guns, much more forgiving in terms of if your aim's slightly off. A lot of times the dispersion can work in your favor and give you a fortunate citadel on a shotgun
Exactly.
that's
And I
necessarily
mean,
aimed all that well. So.
on a cruiser as well, one Citadel, especially in rank too. I mean, in random, you can, if you get Citadel, it's meh. You play that in ranked, you know, people are kind of like the pack of hyenas, waiting for something to be injured, and then everyone just jumps on it. So, I mean, if all of a sudden you get Citadel in a couple hits and you take 18k damage, all of a sudden you're gonna get focus fired and just wrecked. And I feel like the Amagi was very, very forgiving with that dispersion, like you said, shotgun style. And I feel like the Amagi just pumped out. If my team had 3 Amagis and their team had 3 NorCals, I feel like we were doing pretty good.
Right. Yeah. And the nice thing about the Amagi too, with all those shells, and it's able to even maybe hit a couple thousand damage shots on a destroyer that happens to pop out of smoke or something. So it can help cover in that way too, in those more close quarter battles. So
Yep.
I definitely think it has an edge over the Norcal for sure.
And I don't feel like any of them played bad. I felt like there was games where NorCal was amazing. There's games where Tirpitz many times was amazing. And it's at within 6 kilometers, there's only one battleship I want. And that's the Tirpitz. How many times did we see a Tirpitz just go around a corner or go around like right in and just own with torpedoes? That's why they're so strong. But I think overall, I think probably the Magi probably takes it this season. I think it took it last season as well. And I don't with the change unless they change something on NorCal. I think it's going to be the strongest go-to battleship for next season.
Yeah, I don't see that changing either, and it's especially nice for those that don't maybe necessarily have as hefty a wallet, that are on
Yeah.
a free-to-play account, and they don't have the cash available to put out for a Tirpitz, and it's not even in the store right now. It's in the store very irregularly. So
Yeah,
for
which
those
is
that don't
nice.
own
Not
it,
the
go
the
Amagi.
pay to win, voodoo that people have on it. But for cruisers though, I think something we'll probably see a little bit of a change is the cruiser strength. The Atago, I think, was probably #1. Sometimes I would make an argument for Mogami with the 155s purely for the range, because it's pretty damn hard to hit a Mogami, and one that can stealth fire from certain ranges. So I think those two easily the Tago was probably number one, Mogami is probably number two, and everything else I honestly think was distant, distant, distant. I saw a couple New Orleans play okay, a couple Hippers play okay, but what did I want on my team? I wanted Mogamis, I wanted Tagos. I didn't want anything else. If I had anything else, we were at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, with the lack of carrier play, it definitely puts the utility of the U.S. cruisers far behind that of the IJN and the Otago being the best, right? Again, it's another ship that you have to obviously, put some cash outlay for, so it might not necessarily be in everybody's budget to do that. So the Mogami was a great alternative, though, with those 155s. Now, how do you see with the coming changes in a patch that's coming around the corner? Obviously, the 155s may not be as strong an option. Do you see maybe 203 Mogami, or some people maybe still testing the waters with the 155s and fire breathing and whatnot, and starting those HE fires on the decks of
I think you just.
battleships?
I think next season, Mogamis will still be there. I still think a 203 Mogami is going to be better than the New Orleans. Is still better than the Hipper. Even though the Hipper is going to have a bit of a range increase, but I still feel like a Mogami is gonna be an Otago without a heel, and having those 10-kilometer torps. How many times did a Mogami or an Otago hit a destroyer or cause torp damage in games? Often. That's why those two are so far ahead. I don't think you'll see many 155s. I mean, it's something I'll test right at the start, but I think you'll start to see, especially if people have Otagos, I think you're gonna start to see a lot of much fewer Mogamis just being in the game. It's an Otago without a heel basically, but you don't have that range advantage that people use for it. So I just think people will go 203s. It'll hit really hard. It'll start massive fires, but I think the Otago will just be that much stronger, and I think the cruiser classes will be Otago, 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 with a couple Mogamis and a couple everything else.
Yeah, and the X factor on the Otago too that I don't think we mentioned yet is just the torpedo arc. The fact that you can forward fire the torpedoes is huge. You don't have to turn full broadside to a battleship to torp them. You can stay angled.
Yeah, the Mogamis are in the ass end.
Huge advantage.
Well, with destroyers too, we kind of went over it. I think we're both kind of right now Benson fanboys. Although I saw many Fubuki. I mean, what did I want to see on my team? The perfect team. I wanted to see 2 Amagis, I wanted to see 2 Otagos / Mogamis, and I wanted to see 3 Benson. That's the ideal team. I wanted to see, and on their team, I wanted to see, didn't care what battleship, probably maybe Tirpitz, NorCal, either one. I wanted to see New Orleans, and I wanted to see Fubukis. Fubukis are very, very dangerous with their long-range torps. They hit like a bitch, but if you, as a Benson player, I wanted to find those Fubukis. You track them down, they're an easy kill. We pre-stream, we can go about it pre-podcast. We went over the math that I talked about on stream before. We can talk about that at a later date. But, I mean, Fubukis were just food for Bensons. There's no other way to put it.
The Benson, just much higher DPM, much more versatility. I don't see how the Fubuki holds a candle to it personally. So,
and, they're different gameplay. They're different styles, And that's why I think if it's battleships versus destroyers, Fubukis are probably stronger, faster torpedoes, they're stealthier. But the reason Bensons are so strong because there were fewer cruisers, so you needed something to kill those, and the Benson was perfect at that. And I saw many Fubukis destroy me. Getting lucky torpedoes, YOLO torp. I mean, we took many of those, but I'm interested to see how the Lo Yang does. And we're going to kind of talk about the 2 Chinese ships that are now in the game, the Anshan and the Lo Yang. Lo Yang, it's a Sea Hull Benson, so it has 4 guns. Basically the same thing, a little bit slower torps. It's going to be a premium tier 8 destroyer. You haven't been able to play it yet. I have. And there's a big buzz about it because it has a hydroacoustic. And I've actually found that relatively good, If you pop smoke and, or there's a destroyer near, hydroacoustic's pretty insane because it helps you kind of hunt them down, which I still think a Lo Yang will destroy a Fubuki gun for gun. The part of the Lo Yang that I think is going to be the weak side is it still loses fights to the Bensons. You know, it doesn't have speed boost anymore because you trade that for the hydroacoustic. But I'm interested to see how that ship does. You know, it has one less gun than the Benson, but it's still a Benson. Still has 9.2 kilometer torps, still just as stealthy, and it has this extra little tool that you can kind of use as your advantage. So it'll be kind of interesting. Do you think you'll get it, Mr. Benson?
That's a good question. I honestly think I probably will pick that ship up just to test against the actual Benson, right?
Yeah.
I think you'll definitely see a lot of people using it for sure. I think people will be testing the waters with it. Whether or not it stays strong late into people's seasonal run, or excuse me, ranked run, um, would will depend largely on how effective that hydroacoustic is and whether or not the trade off for, like you said, the turbo boost is worth it. Right, so that's going to be the X factor, I guess, in that matchup.
The biggest thing will be is if they change the Benson back to how it was last season. If it was just 4 guns, they take away that 5th gun. I think the Lo Yang is very, very good then. It's a 4-gun Benson. Yes, the torpedoes are still a little bit slower and they do less damage, but still, I mean, the hydroacoustic can be huge. I mean, that's huge. You help your battleships out. You help your cruisers out by spotting, torpedoes farther away. You help everybody out, and you have a better chance at staying alive because you can dodge torpedoes. With the change of torpedoes, those things are right on top of you now, and having that ability to spot them from farther away, that's pretty huge. I think the Lo Yang, one, it's a fun ship to play because it's a fun destroyer, but two, I'm interested to see how it does. I think it will make a splash in ranked, but I still think the Benson's probably the superior destroyer 1v1.
And I think you'll see a lot of people maybe just choose to pull out the wallet in the case that they don't want to grind up to the Benson if they haven't done so already, so they can kind of have that effective ship in ranked in a destroyer if they're a destroyer player, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I definitely see that being the case as well. So yeah, for sure, I think it'll be there definitely.
Well, good. Well, Wargaming has added some new premium ships recently. They added the Anshan, a Tier 6 Chinese destroyer, and the Lo Yang, as we just got done talking about, the Tier 8 Chinese destroyer. We've also gotten our Kamikaze R's from the Pearls, and also the Tachibana from the whatever mission that was, the extra mission. Destroyers, man.
Yeah, it's the spring / late winter ship of choice for Wargaming.
Pretty much, man. The flavor of the month. But they're good though. I like the Kamikaze. It's a Minikaze, I think, with stronger guns. Tachibani is a kind of a turd, but it's low tier. Who cares? Still fun. I think Biddy said you can get it to like 4.8 detection with the upgraded captain, and it's another premium ship. I like the Kamikaze because it levels up my Kagero captain because it's a premium ship.
Yeah, and they're actually buffing the Tachibana, I think, in the next patch, as I remember reading in the patch notes, which we're going to get to that next week. But yeah, the Tachibana Tier 2, I haven't actually had a game in it yet, so I'm not sure how it performs, but I've heard the detection is super low, and it can be really fun to sneak up on a battleship at that tier that basically...
If they gave it longer torpedoes, that thing would be a beast.
I don't think it was longer torpedoes. I want to say, I don't remember what it was.
Like, if they gave it like 6-kilometer torpedoes, that thing would be nasty. Not quite like Umikaze level, but it would be nasty. Like, imagine being 4.9 kilometers away and just launching torpedoes at a battleship, and it had no idea where it was. Like, that dude's gonna get wrecked, But the 2 Chinese lines, it's the first of the Chinese lines. The Anshan. Do you have the Anshan?
I have not purchased the Anshan.
Okay.
I don't really see a point in doing so yet, just because it's its own line, so it's really not effective for helping me grind captains up or anything like that.
Yeah.
So for me, I just didn't see a point. It's from what I've heard, it's like a Nevi kind of crossbred with another destroyer whose name I'm
the Grim Yishi.
Yes, there we go. Yeah. So, you have one, I assume, and have you run it? And what do you think? I guess.
Yeah, I do have the Anshan. I find it's a fun ship, I think it's getting kind of mixed reviews right now, but I think it's the strongest Tier 6 ship in the game. I think it's better than the Matsuki. Has decent torpedoes, I think 7-kilometer detection. Yeah, 7-kilometer detection. Torpedoes are 8 kilometers, so it's kind of just like a Grim. 4 guns. I think the one downside on it, I find the guns not very accurate, but it's a gunboat. It's just like the Grim. I don't think it can quite... It's not as strong as the Grim, I think. I think even 1v1, probably the Grim beats it. Yeah, the Grim's just a little bit sneakier and just a little bit, I think, better. Has less hit points though. But I like the Anshan. I think for tier 6, which I think is a very awkward tier for destroyers, I think it's the standout. I think it beats the Ognivoy 1v1. I think it beats the Farragut 1v1. Matsuki, I think. I mean, unless a Matsuki like torps it, I think it's gonna wreck it. So I find it though, and it like for $20 for having a fun tier 6 premium. That one you can level up captains on for the new Chinese line. That should, who knows when that's gonna drop, but I think it's a good ship. I have fun in it. It's my fun go-to tier 6 destroyer.
Yeah, and for comparables, I mean, it definitely has the AUG beat by what, at least a half a kilometer detection.
Yeah.
Pace. From your experience, the guns there may be some accuracy issues there, but definitely sounds like a solid ship at that price point. So for anybody that's looking to get into something that they can grind a little free XP on, because I know the big selling point of it is that it's got this camel that gives you additional XP bonuses as well. So for those that are just kind of looking to play something fun at tier 6 that gives them a little bit of XP kicker on the back end, I mean, why not? So
all premium ships come with the premium camo, and this one has the extra boost. It not only has -3% detection, 50%, because I think it's at tier 5 and higher premiums, or tier 6 and higher premiums. It jumps up from like 30% to 50% XP, but it has 100% to free XP, which it's not massive, but if you double that up with the Papa flag, I mean, you can have some insane 1,000, 2,000 free XP, and they might not sound like a lot, but you do that regularly, you can knock out a ship pretty quick, man, for just snagging some extra, like even just getting your daily win in, right? Getting an extra 250 XP, 300, 400 XP, that is going to add up pretty quick, and you're going to be able to climb up the line pretty fast. So for $20, I think it's the best tier 6 destroyer in the game. It's a fun ship to play, in my opinion. I had some really good games in it, and it's a good ship to start a new line that's not out. So I think, and I'm on top having that camo, I think it's good. Shit, $20.
Nice, yeah, and I largely suspect a lot of the maybe criticism of the Anshan is people maybe that bought into it because it's at a fairly palpable price point, right?
Yeah.
And maybe they haven't played a whole lot of Destroyer, so they don't necessarily understand the Destroyer gameplay and kind of the do's and don'ts, right? And that takes a good couple hundred games, I'd say, or maybe a little less, but it's definitely not a dozen games and you kind of instantly know the metagame of destroyers by any means. So I think maybe some of that criticism of the ship is maybe undue at this point too, just from people that are maybe just getting their toes wet in the.
Well, I would rather have a crap Anshan on my team than a crap Tirpitz on my team.
Right, yeah, the Tirpitz is far more impactful if they're not playing well, for sure. So yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think they're fun. People want to see some other nations get some love, and we hear that every day. But I think these are two fun ships. I think the Anshan, I think, will make a good. The Anshan can affect next rank season as well, being in the lower tiers too. I think it's probably gonna be the go-to in ranked. So I think it's pretty cool. Both ships, I think, are both fun. We'll see how they do come in the ranked season, and just in gameplay once more and more get out there. The Anshan's out now. The Lo Yang is not. But yeah, I think they're two fun ships from a new line, which is cool. New blood. Ranked season, you excited for our next season?
Absolutely, man. I can't wait. I'm excited to hit the ground running. I'm hoping I can finish even faster than last season. I've had a ton of fun. Get a bit ragey and salty at times, like we all do.
You got to. It's the game.
Right, exactly.
It's part of it.
Territory.
I'm gonna try to improve in my games, but I feel like it's gonna be hard. I had such a good season this season, and I think I dropped like 30 some games from last season to this. It's just like shit. I don't know how I'm gonna. I don't know. You always try to do better, get rank 1 in less games, but we'll see. We're bigger, faster, stronger.
All about that win rate, for sure.
That's right, man. That's right. You got to get on that Ship Comrade leaderboard. But good. Well, that has been it, guys, for Warship Weekly, our weekly podcast on warships. If you want to find out some more information, hit me up on twitch.tv/mejosh or on Twitter at twitter.com/mejoshtv. Also hit up on my YouTube channel, which will be down below.
You can find me on Twitter at Nicodemus81 or moderating Mijosh's Twitch stream.
Remember also to like and subscribe, guys. And if you have any questions, hit us up in the comments down below, and we will answer them next stream. Catch you guys next time.